Hey everyone, I'm Rick and thanks for joining me. Today we'll be taking a look at a passive preamp, and this is a new product. The team over at Hifi College just started distributing this brand, and I want to say it's pronounced Boaleco. That's the closest I think I can get to it. But they reached out and asked me if they can send over a few products. I told them go ahead. This is the first one that I got in from them. So let's take a look at what we have. This is the Boaleco SE-BAL coming in at $49. And this is going to be a rather simple review, as there really isn't much to this unit. So this unit is sold as kind of a switch, and we have a couple of buttons if we look at the front side. We have our output button and an input button. Now if we press this button in, it's sending the out via the XLRs. If we leave it out, the output is going out via the RCAs. And same thing over here with the input. Pressed in, we're bringing signal in through the XLRs. Pressed out, we're bringing signal in through the RCAs. So you technically can have two things hooked up to this little preamp. Then we have the volume pot. I don't mind the red color, I think it's pretty cool. It does feel pretty smooth. And the build quality on the chassis, it's pretty good, it's very solid. Nothing really going on the sides. And then onto the back. On the left side we have our two inputs, one on XLR, one on RCA. And on the right are two outputs, one on RCA and one on XLR. So no power port whatsoever. Again, completely passive, so there's no power that goes through this unit. I went ahead and opened this up to see what we have in there, and here's what I found. We basically have two switches and a potentiometer. It seems to be super simple inside. And here's the thing with that circuit design. It appears that this circuit design will not convert an unbalanced signal into a balanced signal. If you bring it in a balanced signal on XLR, that will continue out on the XLR. But if you bring something in on RCA, it'll stay unbalanced on either the XLR or the RCA. At that point, it's basically an adapter. However, you can use it as a small switch of sorts in that you can have two devices in, although one on XLR, one on RCA, and the same thing on out, one on XLR and one on RCA. So some advantages of a passive preamp: there is no electronics in there, so you're not going to get any ground noise, and you're not going to get any electrical noise from a power supply. And in theory, you're not going to get any coloration from any discrete components or an op amp or a tube output buffer. However, just having that music come through this pot does change things up a little bit. We'll do some sound demos next, and then I'll let you know what I thought about this product. For testing, we'll go from the Cambridge Audio 851N streamer up to the SMSL Raw MDA1 DAC and over to the Boaleco SE-BAL passive preamp. And we'll also compare that signal going through the Jongsun JA1 active preamp, and this one has a few upgrades in it. And what I'll do is I'll go directly into my recorder and I'll record at a couple different volumes. Normally I have the Jongsun down here set for around 10 for low listening, so we'll start with 10 and then we'll max the volume on the Boaleco passive preamp. Then I'll increase the Jongsun up to around 40. That's normally the max volume that I listen to in my home. Same thing, we'll equalize the volume here, and finally we'll crank the volume up to 80 on the Jongsun. Now of course you won't hear any of that volume difference because I will normalize the volume by bringing the preamp gain down on the recorder itself. But you should be able to hear the sound quality differences. Here's the first thing I noticed when I run a 1 kHz test tone, that it's super unbalanced. So if I crank the volume up, but look at the signal input over here, so it does tend to balance out once I get to all the way open, but on the lower volumes there's definitely some imbalance. And it varies from left to right, kind of odd. So as you can hear in those sound demos, there is some change that occurs on this passive preamp versus on my active Johnstown preamp. Now that's a $500 preamp with around $300 in upgrades. The 4 op amps in the output stage of that preamp have been switched over to the Burson V7 Vivids, the RCAs have been switched over to Audio Note Silvers, and the XLRs to Viborg Coppers. The first thing that I hear with this preamp is that there's definitely a loss of body in the mid bass. The deep bass seems to stay there, but the mid bass seems to have a little dip. The mid range also loses a little bit of detail, and the highs, they seem to be unaffected. Now I don't know if that's something that can be improved by switching over that potentiometer, maybe getting a Alps Blue Velvet coming in around $20 if you're willing to do a little DIY, but as it stands, I very much prefer my current Johnstown preamp. Now if you're in a situation where you have no power and you need something passive like this, well, this is going to help you out if you really need a volume knob, if your amplifier doesn't have one already. Or if you're in that situation, plus you need an extra input. So there might be a place for this unit in a very specific scenario, but I don't think I would keep this one in my system. That issue of the channel imbalance on low volumes also does seem to be a common problem on lower end potentiometers, but out the door as is from the factory, I can't say that I'm very impressed with this unit. Hopefully the other Boaleco products that are coming on in give me a better experience. That's all I have for you today, guys, and thanks for watching.